So they will pull you towards them. They will get a reaction out of you because you feel that they have softened for a second, and they will immediately push you away. And when you express that that hurts, they will, not my problem. All right, so today I'm going to talk about 5 ways that you can tell that you are in a toxic relationship or you have just left a toxic relationship. Now, I haven't made content on this channel for a little while, full disclosure here, because it's important to the context of this video. In the last 5 months, I have lost both my dogs and my long-term relationship. So a lot has been going on, but one of the things that has been going on over the course of the last week or so, and I've done this before, obviously. I've been a coach for 15 years now. It's been a while. But one of the things that I have renewed, we'll say this week, is watching YouTube videos on certain aspects of how I felt the relationship went, what went wrong, etc., things like that. And first of all, the reason why I call it a toxic relationship is because, number one, I'm not a doctor, and I do not like to diagnose anybody to say that person's borderline or that person's a narcissist, because if you watch enough YouTube content, you will find enough evidence to point to every single person basically on the planet at some point matches a certain percentage of those characteristics. That's number one. And number two, I'm not a fan of people who will listen to one side of a story and then say, well, that person's a narcissist, that person's borderline personality or anything like that, because you got to hear both sides of the story. So the point to this video is that as I've been going through other content, the comments. I am actually going to be starting a series where I showcase the comments that a lot of men and some women are leaving in the comment section of these videos. And the bottom line here is people are hurting. There's for every video that you see has 40,000, 50,000 views, there's hundreds of, yep, I feel the same way. Yep, that happened to me. Yep, me too, right? So I decided to make this video because it just seems to me like what I'm going through and the things that I noticed, there's a lot of people, both men and women, there's a lot of people going through this right now. And we can get into future videos about why I think it's happening. But for purposes of this video, I'm going to give you 5 things that I know were toxic in my relationship. And, I'll give you at least one personal story, maybe 2. Some of this also comes from other clients. When you talk with people and you help them and they give you their story, you start to hear the same story over and over and over. So, we'll go from number 1 to number 5. Number 1 is they will lie, gaslight, and then blame. So an example might be, let's say you see an inappropriate email, or that they've been talking to somebody. Let's say that there's something that they've done and you have proof and that it has happened, and you confront them and they will immediately lie to you. And then as you are trying to, inside you want them to admit the truth, right? You do not want to have to say, here's the proof, I know that you're lying to me, because that kind of defeats the purpose. You want them to say, yes, I did this thing, I'm sorry. You want some kind of reconciliation. But what they will do is they will lie to you. And then as you begin to become a little bit more aggressive in your approach, saying, I'm not sure that that's true, I don't think that that's true, the more that you accuse them of being dishonest, they are going to get angrier and angrier, and then they are going to blame you. Okay? Well, first they're going to gaslight you. They're going to tell you that those emails never existed and that this situation never happened. And they are going to say, it is just your insecurities. This is your trauma. You're making it up in your head. And then once they're done gaslighting you, when you show them the proof that you know that they've been lying the entire time, then they will blame you. Then they will blame you and say, well, you put me in a position to where I had no choice to lie. They will say, I had to lie to you because I was afraid of the reaction that you were going to have to me. Well, in a relationship, I mean, there's no justification for lying. But inside of a relationship, if you're going to justify lying by saying they're not going to like it, well, you don't have a relationship then. There's no trust there. Of course, you wouldn't like my reaction to what you're telling me. That's why you would lie about it. But that's not a justification. So they will lie to you, and then they will tell you it's your imagination. And then when you prove that it's not your imagination, they will tell you, well, it's your fault I lied anyway, because reasons. Number 2 is what I call the pull, push, and ignore. So they pull you towards them, then they immediately push you away, and then they ignore the damage that they've done. I'm going to tell you a personal story here that just happened involving the death of my dog, Fluffy. So the last 2 months of his life was very difficult, and I had to live downstairs with him because he could no longer walk stairs. And I spent just about every second I could downstairs with him. I work from home, so I was down there a lot, tending to him, sleeping with him on the floor. It was a mess. Not a lot of sleep. I'm talking about at least the last month, maybe I would get an hour, maybe 2 hours of sleep every night, with plenty of nights not getting any sleep. So he passes, and the next day, day after, I'm sitting in the loft area with my now ex, and she pulls, and she says, I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed by what you were able to do for Fluffy, that you were able to just drop everything and have that kind of stamina and have that kind of energy. Really impressed what you were able to do. And due to the nature of the relationship, I felt a very, very rare moment of pride and of being appreciated, of being recognized. And so I said, well, I love the things that I love very, very deeply. And then she immediately pushed me away by taking that personal. She took it to mean, or at least she acted like she took it to mean, that I was somehow criticizing her for not loving me enough, not loving her dogs enough. She took it personal, like I was attacking her when I was simply reacting to a compliment that she had given me, and I was echoing that I did feel pride over what I was able to do for him. So that's the pull and the push. The ignore is whenever I have brought up how painful that was for me, absolute crickets. Absolute crickets. There is nothing that's going to be said about that. That was my moment to have left being in pain. So they will pull you towards them. They will get a reaction out of you because you feel that they have softened it for a second. And they will immediately push you away. And when you express that hurts, they will, not my problem. Now, number 3 is what I call divulge and deflect. And what I'm getting to here is when they begin to reveal certain parts of the relationship, certain aspects of events that happen in such a manner to the friends and the mutual acquaintances that you might have that it leaves out the context to why things might have happened. An imaginary example would be she might text her friend and say, he was in the bedroom screaming all night, or he had a 5-minute fit of yelling and screaming, leaving out the part that the reason I was screaming was because I dropped a hammer on my toe and broke my foot. So they will begin to plant seeds in other people's minds and begin to make sure that you are painted in a particular manner because they may need those people when they eventually decide to discard you, they're going to need those people. Now, that's the divulge part. The deflect part is very, very interesting. What they will do is they will tell the friends the story. And then the friend will come back and say, oh, he's a narcissist, he's this, he's that, whatever name they want to say. And then she will say, no. He's not any of those things. And she will deflect and defend you. She will deflect their accusations and defend you using a trauma that you have shared with her. So she will say, he's not a narcissist. He's just been cheated on a couple of times. Or he's not borderline. It's just he's too sensitive. So they will begin to create a narrative that they are the ones that are, I don't want to use the word sane, they are the ones that are in control of their emotions and that you are not. And once that starts to happen, that's the beginning of the end. Now, number 4 happens pretty much after 1, 2, and 3. It will gradually increase to the point. But number 4 is you end up trapped by their emotions and their inability to cope. Now, what does that mean? What that means is that if something bothers them, it must immediately be addressed. If something bothers you, tough cookies. Absolutely tough cookies. But they will not couch it in a manner. They were not going to say, well, that doesn't matter. I don't care about that. No. They will use their emotions, specifically their inability to regulate their emotions, as a weapon to shut you down from having conversations. And they won't hide it. They will not hide it. They will say, you know that I will get into a state. You know I cannot handle the pressure of these conversations. You know that I have trouble regulating my emotions. So they put all of the responsibility on you to just simply don't bring anything up. Anything that you bring up that might be an issue is, she might humor you for a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, depending on the subject. But at some point around the time where she might have to make a concession, or if you're trying to negotiate something, at some point around when she might have to say, okay, I'll meet you halfway or even a third of the way, she will suddenly have a panic attack. She will suddenly say, I can't do this anymore. This has to stop. I can't take the pressure. And this will just escalate as the relationship goes on. And then this dovetails with the divulge and deflect, because then after a number of years, she will say, well, you just keep bitching about the same things. And I will say, well, yeah, because nothing ever gets resolved because you're not capable of having a conversation about it. So they will then go to their friends and say, he really laid into me about this. He won't let it go. He's pressuring me to do these things, when in the reality, you've been trying to have a conversation about whatever the topic is for a month, 6 months, 2 years, and you get shut down every single time. And they use their emotions as an excuse, but you are the one that is charged with making sure that they don't get triggered. Now, before we get to number 5, as this moves on and as the relationship progresses, one of two things is going to happen, maybe both at the same time. You are either going to become depressed and lose self-esteem, and or begin to fight back and insist on conversations happening and situations being resolved. And you might just flip back and forth like windshield wipers, and it will make you look like you're unstable. But the point, that's not what's happening. What's happening is you realize that you've been trying to have a discussion about something even small for 6 months or a year. And at some point, you realize that when they tell you, I just need time to process this, we'll come back to this later, that they never do. They never will, and they never do. And in fact, sometimes the longer that you wait for them to process and be ready to talk about something, the angrier that they will get when you bring it up. Because what's really happening is they are hoping that one of two things is going to happen, which leads to the same result. They are hoping that you are either going to just forget about it and let it go, or the next time you bring it up in conversation that you're just going to say, you know what, I know that this is too much for you, so we'll just do it your way. And through that, they control you while telling everybody else that you are controlling them through your pressure and insecurities. Now, number five. Now, number five is extremely important. Extremely important. Not to be hyperbolic, but number five could save your life. And I want you to listen to me very, very carefully. If you've been in this type of relationship, if you have just exited this type of relationship, what I'm about to say to you, don't say, well, maybe. No. You are never, 5, 10, you're never, look at me, you are never going to get closure. At this point, you might be addicted to trying to get closure. You think, well, if I just show her how much this hurt, if I put it this way, maybe if I bring up this one thing that really hurt me, that's so egregious that I've never brought it up because I know she's going to be angry if I bring it up. Maybe if I finally bring that horrible thing up, that she'll say, oh, you know, you might be right. I did that thing. You are never going to get closure. In this type of a relationship, the best thing that you are ever going to get is a quick, in the moment, well, look, I'm sorry about that, but, and then she will go on. That is the best you're ever going to get. I'm sorry about that. You're not going to get a genuine eye contact, hug, anything. There's no closure coming. And that is the most difficult part to it all, because as it's ending or as you're realizing it or after it's over, your mind is going to be spinning with all of the things that they have said about how it's your insecurities and your pressure and your insistence on everything being your way, when the reality was you would have negotiated 99% of what you wanted away if they would have ever just given in the 1%. And all of that is going to be spinning in your head. And all this time they're going to have been telling you, if you would have just said it this way, if you would have just approached me differently. And what's maddening is many times when they say to you, if you would have just said this, many times it's actually exactly what you did just say. It can be crazy making. You are never going to get closure for that. It's not going to happen. And you will catch yourself, even after you think that you have accepted you're not going to get closure on that, you will continue to communicate in a manner of which you don't realize that you're trying to get closure. You don't realize that you're trying to get empathy or understanding. But when she snaps back at with you with that toxic reaction, you're going to be, oh my God, I did it again. I did it again and again and again. So if nothing else, if you get nothing else from this video, just understand, in situations like this, you will not get closure. You will not get a genuine apology. You may get a feigned angry admission of guilt. It's my fault. I know I did it all. I know I'm the problem. I did it. You're right. Don't worry about it. It's my fault. But they don't mean it. And you can tell by the next sentences that come out of their mouth. And that's it. That's the bottom line. The likelihood is that if you are in one of these situations, you are drained emotionally, physically, spiritually. You look in the mirror and you say, oh, what the hell happened here? How did all that happen? But it did. You can rebuild yourself. You absolutely can. Do not say that someone destroyed you. You can say they damaged you. If something is destroyed, it cannot be rebuilt. You can be rebuilt. But accepting 1 through 4 and acknowledging it and recognizing it, that is half. The other half is let go of trying to get closure. It won't happen. It doesn't matter how bad you want it. It won't happen. That's it. I hope you had got value from this video. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. In the past, I've been doing sort of dating video reviews and whatnot. I may still do some of that, but the angle of this channel may change a little bit. It's going to be a full-time channel now. And I'm also going to be picking back up. If you saw, I had a podcast out a couple months ago called The Story of Life podcast. It is actually a story involving the dogs, the couple of which that just passed, including some other dogs. I will be picking up that podcast again as well. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. I do hope that you get some help from this, and I'll see you again tomorrow.